The Simply Successful program offers stress management tools for the lifespan, so small children, adolescents, or adults can be simply successful.
Hello, I'm Deb Timmerman.
And I'm Beth Tuttle. Welcome to the Simply Successful program. We teach stress management skills to build resilient kids, successful families, and thriving communities.
Today our guest is Kimberly Bolker. She's with Bolker Capital. She's been in the financial planning business for nearly 16 years. She has the Certified Financial Planner designation and accredited investment fiduciary designation. We've known Kim through Women's Life, and we're thrilled to have her today as a guest on our show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I know I'm in the minority, but I happen to think that money and finances are fun to think about and to talk about. And I think it's a good feeling when you know that you are in control of your finances, and that's what I hope to bring to each family that I work with.
Okay, we work with families to minimize stress, and finances is one of the biggest stresses that a family can face.
I think the first thing we should point out is that financial stress exists in nearly every family, regardless of your income level. Part of that is due to the way we view money. Typically, when we get a raise or a promotion or a different job, we don't save that extra money. Our expenses rise as our incomes rise. We justify more spending. Now we can afford cable, or we can lease a brand new vehicle. Pay down debt or give more to charity, that's way too practical. But it raises a question. How is it possible that a family that has a $125,000 income is broke, living paycheck to paycheck, and a family that has a $50,000 income is actually managing a surplus?
That probably happens all the time. What tips do you have for families to manage financial stress?
I think the obvious answer is to live within your means, but not everyone knows exactly what that is. So let me ask the audience, do you know how much you earn each week or with each paycheck? Okay, harder question. Do you know how much you spend each week? Do Amazon packages just magically show up on your doorstep? A plan and a budget helps direct money on a weekly or a monthly basis. And when you have the plan written down, it helps provide focus and it can bring on this sense of control. The biggest difference of people that live paycheck to paycheck and those that don't is control. They know where money goes each month and they have a plan for it. Now, some months might be better than others, but the best plans are the ones that evolve and have the ability to change. So I have this concept called the 70-10-10-10 rule, and it's the simple rule of thumb that families can use to gauge their spending. It at least provides a place to start, and it goes like this. 10% of your income should be going towards short-term expenses. So if the roof leaks, the car breaks down, kiddo ends up in the emergency room with a broken arm, you have cash to pay for it. An emergency fund is highly underestimated. It can feel boring and you won't earn much interest, but it will be there for you when you need it. And emergencies, they're kind of funny like that. They happen when you least expect them or you're least prepared. So I think emergency funds can significantly reduce a family's stress.
So the first 10% is going toward an emergency fund.
Yes. So the next 10% is towards long-term expenses like retirement. So the final 10% should be towards giving. And living in West Michigan, we're used to the concept of tithing. So naturally, aim for 10% of your income to go towards church or charity or a nonprofit that you're very passionate about. Giving helps us think outside of ourselves. So if you can try to spend only 70% of your paycheck, I think you'll be in good shape. And budgets can help us stay within those percentages and highlight where we might be spending too much.
I think everyone knows they should have a budget, but why is it so hard?
I think they're hard because they're uncomfortable and they demand some of our time. We don't like doing things that are hard. We don't like doing things that we don't see results from right away. Have you ever been on a diet? It's kind of like, hey, I ate lots of vegetables today, but I'm not skinny. What's wrong? Well, nothing's wrong. You just have to make smart food choices and exercise every day before you start to see changes to your waistline. The same goes with your budget. You can't give up Starbucks once and expect to have $1,000 saved in your savings account. It takes consistency and effort day after day, week after week, and month after month.
A lot of people don't know how to create a budget. How do you go about it?
Well, my first tip is to grab a beverage of your choice, because I think a glass of wine or a good scotch can make the process a little easier. And then you need to choose a system that works well for you. You need to list every expense that you have. Car loans, student debts, groceries, utilities, mortgage, rent. List everything. And if you don't know what your expenses are, go to your credit card statement or go to your bank statement. That will have your expenses broken down. So personally, I like to use Excel. I enter everything for my business and my personal expenses into Excel because I can manipulate that data and track my spending year over year. Some people prefer old school pen and paper, and there are also some apps that work very well with budgeting.
Speaking of apps, what would those be? Which ones would you recommend?
Whatever format helps you visualize your expenses will work just fine. I've seen Mint or Good Budget on several sites as good apps to use while tracking your budget. After you've tracked your expenses, look and see where your money's going. And it's important to define what expenses are necessary, or what we call a need, and those that are discretionary, what we call a want. I'm sorry, but the cleaning lady is a want. That is not a need. That large TV you have with 1,000 cable channels is a want. It's not a need. Your rent, your mortgage, your water bill, light bill, groceries, those are need items. So when you rank your expenses, you can have a baseline of, this is what I need every month to operate my household. And then you can add in some wiggle room for fun expenses. Because what's the point of working hard every day if you can't enjoy your money? It's just like food. It's a balance. So use my 70-10-10-10 rule. And when figuring out your budget, really try to only spend 70% of your take-home pay, because you need to be saving for your future too.
So staying on budget is a huge stressor. What else do families struggle with?
Debt. Leaving mortgage debt out of this, personal debt is really starting to creep up again, which means people are spending money they don't have to impress people they don't necessarily like. I mean, does this resonate with anybody out there? Even with the mortgage, how many of us have a house that we don't need? But rates are low, and we would really like everyone to have their own bedroom, right? Just because a loan officer tells you you qualify for a $400,000 house doesn't mean that's what you should buy or that's what you should be looking at. Because the minute you look at a house in that price range, you see what you could have and you start justifying why you deserve it. And you probably do, but that starts this downward spiral. There's this proverb that states, the borrower is slave to the lender. So the faster you can get out of debt, the more financially free that you are going to feel.
So most people probably have debt in several places, like credit cards or car loans. How do we know which one to pay off first?
That's a great question, Beth, because we can just be making payments here and there with no kind of game plan, and we can feel like families can feel like they're not getting anywhere. And the truth is, you probably aren't. If you have debt from multiple places, student loans, car loans, credit cards, I want you to list all of your debts out. Again, I'm a very big list person. So name your creditor, the amount you still owe, your minimum payment, what you currently pay, and the interest rate. So once you have all of that written down, then I want you to rank them in one of two ways. Either rank them by interest rate or rank them by amount that you still owe. Some people, they want to pay off the loans with the highest amount of interest first and then work their way down. Other people want to pay off the smallest value loan first, create some momentum, and then work towards the larger balances. Keep it simple. If you write them down, pick the ranking system that makes the most sense to you, and then attack it with full force. I think a plan of action can help relieve families of some of the stress and the financial pressure that they face when they have a game plan going in towards working on their debt.
So it's more important to make a list and to take action. However you decide to chunk that off is really up to you.
I mean, you can do amortization tables and you can go into a lot of nitty-gritties on it, but at least having a plan and having a focused list will accomplish it as well.
You've given our listeners some great tips. Any final words or thoughts?
I want to leave you with a word of encouragement, actually. I think money allows us to accomplish wonderful things in our lives. It allows us to take trips and make memories with our families, or start a business or service that people need that we are passionate about. It helps us buy the house or cottage that we've always dreamed of. You can control your money and your spending. And as I've said, a plan helps laser in your focus. A game plan can bring confidence to what you're doing. That said, that I think a game plan, you'd look at the beginning, the middle, and the end. So there's usually 3 steps in it. And I ran a marathon recently, and so I always look at marathons and money together because they have so many similarities. And whether this is race day or a training program, money and marathons both require a sense of sacrifice, hard work, determination, and some type of training plan or game plan. You can't wake up one day and decide, hey, I'm going to run 26.2 miles. Well, at least I can't. I had to train for it for several weeks. And you can't look at your debt level or how much you need for retirement and accomplish that in a day either. So when you're looking at the stages, the beginning, it feels easy because you have this excitement built in. Yes, I'm going to do this. I'm finally going to pay this debt off. I'm going to save for this future event. I'm going to run this marathon. And then you have the end, which is also glorious because you can see the finish line. You know you're just a couple payments away from being done with that student loan. Or you feel the pride and accomplishment of your hard work and sacrifice. You can see the end. But the middle is where the pain happens, but the middle is also where the magic happens. The middle is when we can get discouraged, where boredom and impatience can kick in. Am I ever going to be done with this loan? Will I ever be debt free? Will I ever have enough money saved? Will I ever be done with this race? And that's why a written plan is so important, because in those discouraging moments, you can look back and visually see the progress that you've made. You can see where you have started and how far you have actually come. You know, if running a marathon was easy, more than 1% of the American population would do it. If being debt-free was easy, if living within your means was easy, more people would do it. So don't get discouraged that you haven't started sooner. Start today. Start paying off that debt. Start that budget. Start saving today.
Oh, Kim, you've shared so many great tips and made it seem possible to actually create a budget. So if someone wanted more information, what's the best way to reach you or find you?
They can visit my website, which is www.bolkercapital.com, or you can call my office, which is 616-942-8600. My office is located at 2050 Breton Avenue Southeast here in Grand Rapids, and the securities that I offer are provided through Sigma Financial Corp member FINRA/SIPC, and Bolker Capital is independent of Sigma Financial. I want to leave you with this: a goal without a plan is just a wish.
Thank you so much, listeners, for joining us today. We hope that Kim's tips and wisdom will help you start on a plan for managing your finances. You can find us at simplysuccessfulprogram.com. and thank you for joining us today.